Do you want to inform the listening audience on the battle that you're currently waging in your bedroom?
A mosquito.
I don't know what to do with that. You just said an insect, and I gave you an opportunity to tell a story.
Okay, so here's what happened.
Okay.
I got up this morning.
All right.
Just, running around doing the little things, and then I go back to my bedside table.
Okay.
And there is, I'm not sure it's a mosquito because I don't want to get too close to it, but I think it's a mosquito right on the wall, but behind the lamp and next to the, it's in kind of a precarious situation.
She's in a spot only a real tricky bug could get to.
So I decide to go in slowly with the hand, just full hand.
Weird decision. That's a weird decision.
I know. It was spontaneous. Maybe I wasn't fully awake. I don't know. Did it, and of course it got away, and that's when I realized it's a mosquito. Now, if you know me, if I think there is a mosquito in the bedroom, it could be 3:00 in the morning. All the lights will come on.
Yep.
I will inspect every inch of everything.
Totally reasonable.
And 9 times out of 10, I find those little buggers.
Yep.
And I'll kill it. We don't have a lot of mosquitoes here.
That's true.
So people go, well, how many mosquitoes? It's usually 1. It's not 12. It's not 3.
And they're big. I think we've talked about this briefly. They're not small. People think in the South mosquitoes will carry you away. No, there's a billion of them and they're little. Here, somehow, they're bigger so you can at least track them.
Yes. Oh, you can. Oh, no. You can track them. So I consider myself a fairly good mosquito tracker.
Okay. Self-appointed mosquito tracker Deb
yes,
Z.
Me.
Learning something new today.
So I go into the bathroom to begin to get ready.
Okay.
And guess what?
What?
There he is.
Of course.
But the bathroom's...
He's got you in his sights.
The bathroom's great because most stuff in the bathroom is whitish.
Correct.
Okay. So I go for him and...
Where is he?
He's right by the wall that you would leave the bathroom.
Nice. So you can almost juke him. You can be like, oh, hey, I'm leaving, Mr. Mosquito. Whack.
So that's kind of what happened, except...
Tried to psych him out.
Guess what happened?
What happened?
Whack didn't work.
You missed him.
Okay.
Because you went hand again, didn't you?
I did go hand again. Oh my God.
Gotta go cloth.
I know.
That's an extension. Yeah, and you can whip it.
Exactly.
You're never going to slap as hard on a wall as you would with a towel.
Kevin, you were right.
That's Mosquito Tracker 101 stuff.
So he goes right into my closet.
Okay.
I watch him.
Yeah.
So I immediately, and I don't know if other mosquito trackers think this, but I immediately say, you've got to turn the lights on.
If there's other mosquito trackers out there, please let us know how Deb, the self-appointed mosquito tracker, is doing. Continue.
So the light, they're attracted to light. They
That's
like
true.
to go by light. Okay?
And blood.
Well, and blood. So I turn the light on.
Uh-huh.
Go back into the bathroom.
Okay.
And we're going to wait each other out.
So you're in hunter mode. You have gone from passive executioner, if the opportunity presents itself, to now it is man versus beast.
Exactly.
Love it.
Woman
versus beast.
Okay. So I have an eyeliner.
Oh yeah. Okay.
In my hand.
Yeah, you do.
Which isn't going to help.
Do you start doing Rambo war paint on your face?
No,
okay.
I don't. But I have this instinct when I'm putting eyeliner on.
Yep.
That he's in there and I can get him.
That comes with the innate ability to track mosquitoes.
But do I lay the eyeliner down?
That's a great question.
No.
No, you sure don't.
Wait, we're a clean product.
You definitely don't lay that eyeliner down.
And so I make the mistake of walking in without a towel.
For the third time.
Where is he? Right in front of me, like this.
Buzzing. Oh.
And then...
He is now antagonizing you. He's moved from the passivity of just being on the wall to being like, what's up, lady? Exactly. You and me. I see you got eyeliner in your hand, no towel.
So, and the eyeliner's in my right hand, which makes it even worse for me.
Yeah, because that's your dominant hand. Again, Tracker 101, keep your dominant hand free.
Exactly. Right at eye level.
Yeah.
He lands on a black jacket, which is perfect because I can see him. But I only have the left hand free.
And here's the thing. Everybody who's ever held eyeliner knows it's almost impossible to move it from one hand to the other. It takes longer than it's even worth to take eyeliner from one hand and put it in the other. I get it. I'm with you.
At the time I was being taunted.
I get it.
I was being taunted.
He's in your head. He's in your head.
Literally. So I take my left hand.
Not literally, because you would have lost the battle if he was literally in your head.
So I take my left hand.
Got it. Again, no towel.
And this is fabric. Well, because he's on fabric.
Probably even better reason to use a towel.
Yeah. So apparently my left hand was thinking, not my right hand. Because my right hand was
it's occupied.
Eyeliner.
Yeah,
right,
it's occupied.
Exactly. So I go like this. I grab the jacket.
So you squeeze.
Squeeze. And
how
move.
fast? How fast are you moving?
Oh no, I have him in there.
Karate Kid Daniel-san.
Karate Kid Daniel-san. I've got him.
You know it. You can feel it. You can feel the weight of the mosquito in your hand.
And he's nowhere. I hold it for quite a while.
And it's on a black jacket, so we definitely know it doesn't blend in well there.
So I let go, and what's he's
You
alive.
didn't squeeze.
I did squeeze.
You didn't squeeze hard enough. You
It's
were
my
cocky.
left hand.
You got cocky. You said, hey, right hand occupied. Muscle memory senses activate to left hand. You reached out, you snagged the prey, and then you didn't finish the job.
I didn't finish the job.
You had your foot on his throat and you didn't press.
He heckled me. And I think he heckled me.
He taunted
after that.
you.
Yes.
He taunted the hell out of you.
So I go back to finish getting ready.
So now this is Mosquito 3, Deb nothing.
Yes. So I think before I come down here,
Okay.
I'm going to take one last look in the closet.
Great movies have been written about moments exactly like this.
Okay. So for some reason I go, I mean, the closet, it's a walk-in closet, but it's still like getting the towel, depending on if he's on a soft surface or a hard surface, where is he? Depending on if he's like I have those little like cute little, hanging track lights in my closet. So he could be in between there.
Sure.
That would be hard. Don't want to break a light. Right.
So you're mapping out the plan
Now
of
I have
attack.
a strategy.
Depending on where he actually is. And being in the walk-in closet is no small feat for you because you're a human and he's a mosquito. I'm assuming it's a he. It could be a female. I don't want to gender assume.
It could be whatever.
They can be anywhere.
They can be anywhere. So I walk in and I kind of fluff the clothes on both sides because if he's there, he's going to have to move.
Oh, you're just like kind of, I envision this perfectly. Slow motion montage, Deb's left hand, her right hand now free of eyeliner, just slowly caressing all the clothes to try to move him away from where he could possibly be hiding.
It's free of eyeliner, but the right hand is now possessing
a gun.
A secret weapon. Everybody knows this is a for sure bug killer.
Okay, what is it?
Hairspray.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah, hairspray.
Do you have a lighter in the other hand? Are you going to burn this thing?
So I get into the back of the closet and I look up on the ceiling and there he is.
Oh my gosh.
And I think
staring at you.
Mm-hmm. And I just take the hairspray and spray as hard as I can.
As if there's any other way to spray.
And bump.
You poison him.
Well, this is what I heard a long time ago. I read something a long time ago that if you take hairspray and you spray a bug, it's their skin is an organ, a breathing organ.
That's true.
It closes that all up and they just
acts as a little cement, a little sealer.
Yeah.
Real super cool way to die.
A little sorry, but I mean, we were on time number 4.
Yeah, it's true.
I had to do what I had to do. Now,
you couldn't go back to the mosquito tracking message boards 4 or 4. They would not have let you sign in.
So I feel like I won. I don't know for sure if I won. I do need to get up on where I think he landed to see if he's there and dead. If he's not,
you make this sound like you're out in the jungle.
If it happens, then I'm going to have to keep tracking him later on. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's him and me now. The bedroom door is closed. He can't go anywhere.
People wonder how I am the way I am. This is a great example of it. These are things that I would do where I would be sitting in my room contemplating the ebb and flow, the good and bad, the cost-benefit analysis of destroying a spider in my room, only to find out that my mother does the exact same thing an hour before we're supposed to podcast. I love it.
But you are much kinder to bugs, except for mosquitoes. You would kill a mosquito too.
I will. Here's the thing. My kindness is dependent on how I feel in the moment. Well, that's not anything extravagant. That's literally everybody, depending on the moment. Are you going to be kind or not? But if it's like a bee, that bee is going to get rescued and put back outside.
How about a wasp?
A wasp, maybe, because I view them as such intelligent animals that to just kill them the way I would a mosquito doesn't feel fair. They're high on their particular food chain.
Okay.
Go out there and do what you need to do. Spiders, I'm kind of the same way. Roly-polies the same way. Those box elder bugs, kill them with indiscrimination.
Vengeance. Yeah.
Mosquitoes, the same thing. But again, if I don't want to go through the process of grabbing a cup, grabbing a piece of paper, trapping it, sliding the paper under, and then letting it go, yeah, I'll just take a kitchen towel and whack the hell out of that thing and then just sponge up its remains.
Yeah. Well, so now what I'd like the listening audience to do right now is pray that my bedroom is mosquito free and pray that I have won the battle.
Please contact the Lord on behalf of Deb fighting mosquitoes.
Thank you.
I certainly had a way we were going to start this cold open, but this wasn't it. But it's just as good. Let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. Across from me is the gold medalist of this show. It's my mom, Deb.
I'm Deb.
And I'm just happy to be an alternate on the dressage team. I'm her son, Kev, and this is our podcast. On today's show, in Deb's business segment, we focus on the end of professional relationships when she talks to us about burning bridges. And we have a brand new batch of questions for dear Deborah/Debbie. And we'll end the show by telling you what we're thankful for and what, if anything, can top the meal we had last week. But first, Deb, do you remember when I was growing up, like I would say late elementary school, early middle school, the cool thing was to diagnose every young boy with like ADD or ADHD?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that, because ADD and ADHD are still very much a thing. They're talked about more frequently. As we talk about mental health in this country, there's less stereotypes around it, but we all kind of probably still suffer from it. What was the thinking that went into diagnosing me? Probably because it was the right diagnosis.
You just wouldn't stay in your seat. It was pretty much that. I mean, you were a really bright kid. You could do the work, all of that.
Yep.
You just couldn't stay in your seat, and you kind of couldn't quit talking.
So just based on that alone, you're like, I don't believe there's something wrong with him, but everybody seems to be getting on this medication, so maybe it'll help him.
Well, no. So I was really like, oh, I don't want him labeled. I mean, like that didn't feel good to me. Right. And I don't remember which teacher said, he might be ADHD. And I was pretty sure you weren't ADD because, I just saw so many times when you could relax. Like at home,
sure,
it felt normal, completely normal. And so I took you to our pediatrician first, and then we went to a shrink, and they all said, not really. Maybe he's just not very disciplined,
That checks out.
And so I do think this is what I think. Do you want to know what I thought then or what I think now?
Both.
Okay. What I thought then was really
tired of parent-teacher conferences going
really
over the exact same thing.
Really tired of having the same old conversation with you. But I thought if something is really wrong with him, and if there is a good, I looked at it kind of like diabetes. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
If he needs insulin, we've got to give it to him.
Attention deficit diabetes. It's
exactly.
The same thing.
If that were it. But because I wanted you to be successful. At the same time, I just kept thinking like, I believed you could do this. I believed you could hold it together.
Sit still. I believe you cannot move.
But so then I literally would have done anything, obviously, for you to be successful in the classroom. So we did try, I think, a form.
It was a light version of Ritalin.
I think it was a light version of Adderall. Adderall?
Yeah, that sounds right.
A light version of Adderall, which you took for a while, and it was sort of amazing.
Well, yeah, it zapped me of all of my passion and spirit. I could absolutely sit and concentrate, and I would just think of all the ways I wanted to end my life because it was so miserable.
Okay, it did not seriously make him suicidal.
No, but I did not like the way I felt on it.
But he did not like, and he came to us very quickly and said, "This is not working. I don't like it. This is not good."
Yeah.
And so then we just said, and I guess I just kind of, here's what I thought in the end. There have been ADD and ADHD people forever.
Yep.
We just haven't put a label on them.
Yep.
They were just like misbehaved children.
They were just creative.
Yeah, they were just creative, or they were just, little troublemakers, or they were whatever you wanted, what the time was,
Sure.
And so I just said to him, here's our expectation. I'll go to the principal once a year. That's it. Do you know what I mean?
I'll be on your side once
a year. And you're required to get good grades so you can go to college. So we will, however you can figure that out, we'll figure it out. But it's on you to behave and mature and do whatever it is you need to do to get there. And I kind of felt like that worked for us. But I also want to say, for kids that really are seriously ADHD and all of that, that kind of talk isn't going to work.
Well, the reason I bring this topic up is because I find myself on TikTok a lot, and there's a lot of people who talk about quote unquote mental health disorders, and somebody would quantify ADHD as that. There's some neurological issue where you can't sit still or you can't focus. But it's really funny because when people point out some of the symptoms of ADHD, I can't help but think of you. So I have found a list of 20 questions. They're yes and no questions. I'll answer with you, but let's see if my ADHD was inherited or it's a standalone illness that I'm suffering from. Deb, are you ready?
Ready.
Is it hard to plan ahead, organize, and prioritize for you?
Sometimes it is.
It's a yes or no question.
Hard. Not hard.
I would say no as well.
Okay.
Are you frequently late?
Yes.
I would say no for me. Do you find big picture more interesting than details?
Oh, for sure. Yes.
That's the first one I read. I was like, oh, she's got ADHD for sure.
Yeah.
Do you drift off and daydream frequently?
Yes.
Do you often
find? I don't. I used to plan it in school. Like this is.
You scheduled your time to daydream?
I would literally think, what am I going to think about now? This is so boring. But the difference was I stayed in my seat and I didn't speak.
No, the difference was you put that in your schedule and I was like, huh? Do you often find it hard to concentrate or get bored easily?
I get bored really easily.
Are you more awake in the evenings and find it hard to fall asleep?
Yes.
Is blurting, saying what's on your mind without thinking, an issue for you?
Possibly.
Can you focus so deeply that you don't notice anything or anybody else?
No.
Yes. When you're on your phone, I'm like,
yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Do you never get around to certain important activities? Paperwork, tidying, planning?
Possibly.
Do you sometimes feel driven by a motor or conversely feel stuck, unable to take action?
Yes.
Are you very intuitive, empathetic, creative, and an unconventional thinker?
Maybe.
Do you often act impulsively and react quickly without properly reflecting?
Maybe.
Have you underachieved and not met goals? Start new tasks before finishing old ones?
I don't think I've underachieved.
It's a yes or no?
No.
Okay. Are you easily distracted and drift off while reading or in conversation?
No.
That's a yes for me. Is it hard to go through established channels and follow proper procedures?
Oh, for sure.
Yes. Are you impatient? Do you hate queues and drive fast?
No,
that's true. You don't. I do.
I don't. You do.
Have you a family history of alcohol addiction, anxiety, or depression?
You know what I do in the queue?
What?
I just daydream.
schedule a 15-minute daydream.
Exactly.
Have you a family history of alcohol addiction, anxiety, or depression?
Yes.
Are you forgetful, often losing or misplacing things, forgetting appointments?
Possibly.
So my rough estimate is 17 yeses to these questions.
Oh, should I go get Adderall?
I mean, listen, you've managed to carve out a successful niche for yourself, but it's so funny because one of the things that I heard was people with ADHD, when there's a conversation happening, will just speak in the middle of somebody's sentence because they have something that they believe is so important needs to be said.
Right.
And that's just like you and I.
Yeah.
And it's not meant in a rude or dismissive way. And it's not meant to like disparage the person talking. It's that we just believe what we're saying right now is way more important than what you have to say.
What I actually think is, I believe I know what they're going to say. And so then
and you can't even let them get to that point.
Like, no, the answer to that is already no.
Yep.
Let me just tell you what the answer is. Right. So, yeah, I think so. Maybe that goes back to then my plan with you of, because I would have said, and I think teachers would have said about you, you were incredibly creative.
Totally.
Right. And so I think that you got to muscle it through somehow, because I think once you go on the drugs, and of course we're not lambasting anybody here.
No, God, no.
Gotten the right care for, their children or themselves. But for me, I've never been on Adderall or Ritalin or anything.
Sure.
But I would imagine it would tamp down the best things about me too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in theory, if you think about it, if you and I operate from the same standpoint of like, we like 30,000 foot views, we don't need to get caught in the minutia. And you and I both know, give us enough information to be dangerous and then let us go. School is providing you so much information in the moment to do a project, to do an assignment. They're just giving you enough. They're giving you so much so that they know the exact parameters you're supposed to, find success in with this assignment. You and I would be like, I got it. Like, we got it. The first minute, we got it. We understood it. We got it. If there's questions, we'll come back. So that makes sense when I think back on little Kev being like, okay, you want us to color a dinosaur. I get it. Let me start coloring this dinosaur. I don't need the specifics after that.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I also think like for you, I mean, comedy is a big piece of you, like to make people laugh. So you're going to infuse that into everything.
Well, yeah, because comedy is what? Comedy is timing. And if you can do it faster than anybody else, and if you're sharp as a whip with your response to people, then you're going to get the bigger laugh. And that comes in the form of, somebody says something, you stop concentrating on what they're saying, you're formulating the joke in your head, and then you just spit it out. I mean, yeah, that feels like that's a well thought out ability, but under these guidelines, I would be suffering from ADHD.
Oh, well. So wouldn't it be great, and I mean this seriously, if when our little darlings started to go for a formal education, wouldn't it be great if there was some kind of real assessment that said they would learn the best this way and that it was designed for your learning style?
Well, I said this to somebody the other day. I said, every parent should want their kid to be well educated. And that doesn't mean going to school necessarily, right? It means what in this world of vast opportunities where schooling has now manifested into 1,000 different things is going to work exactly right for this singular human being. Because looking back on it, it's amazing I got through high school.
If I would have had all the money in the world and could have done it over, I think for you, what I would have done, actually, I'm pretty confident. If I would have had all the money in the world and could have done it over, you would have been homeschooled, but we would have traveled.
Sure.
And I think that would have given you everything you needed.
And the other thing was, even though I didn't pursue it as a profession for longer than a year, I did it for 2 years prior. I knew exactly what I wanted to do after college. I wanted to be in sports broadcasting. I know that people would have said, well, you still need to learn math and you still need to understand sciences. And I don't disagree with that at all. But at the point that a kid, despite their age, is like one track minded on what they want to do, that should be catered. Because I mean, I answer questions on Jeopardy all the time that I never learned about in school. You pick things up by osmosis, right? You pick things up by just normal conversations or things you hear or movies or TV shows or blah, 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 blah. So the education component will always be there if you're willing to learn. But I feel as though we're willing to label people as ADHD or ADD because they're not sitting still in a particular subject that does not remotely speak their language. And when you get somebody like me in the classroom, they're like, okay, this is boring. I assume it's boring for everybody. Who wants story time?
Mm-hmm. And, and for somebody like me, you were braver to speak out.
Or
right?
entitled.
Or entitled or a brat, whatever. But I just calculated, okay, I'm in Mrs. Weshy's English, 7th grade English class. This is time to put my face in my hands, stare ahead, and daydream about something else, right?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I'm happy that we suffered from the same thing. You were just smart enough to know where it fit on your day planner.
That's true.
We've talked about firing people before. We've talked about people giving notice. There's one other element that comes from leaving a business, and that's how you leave the business when your time is done. And that topic kind of comes in the form of, are you going to burn the bridge on your way out and just salt the fields where nothing will ever grow again because you feel so wronged with your time being there? Or are you going to leave with grace?
Yeah, great question, right?
I mean, it's the Jerry Maguire moment, right? It's the moment everybody wishes they had, which is middle fingering all of management and everybody who didn't believe in you and saying everything that you've ever wanted to say about the business, about the industry, about your coworkers, and then standing in the middle of the office and saying, who's coming? Who's coming with me?
Right.
Screw all these people. Who's coming?
Yeah. And then it's dead quiet.
And then it's you and Renee Zellweger.
Yeah.
And her cute son.
And her cute little guy. So recently I saw this girl, and there's, dozens of these now, but, where she holds the paper. And she was a really sweet looking, like fresh, clean looking, darling girl. And it was like, hey, I'm giving my notice because I'm tired of you talking about my ass. Because, just went on and on and on.
Sure.
And it was like, it was super funny. It was super light. Hopefully she did it maybe after she really gave her notice, right? I mean,
or she just filmed it all before and then gave her notice and then posted it.
Yeah, exactly. But so everybody has the dream of doing something like that, of divulging all the dark, ugly corners that exist, or, the email you shouldn't have gotten, but you did. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But here's the problem with it. Like a 101 rule for job interviews are don't talk badly about your prior company and your prior boss.
Sure.
And the reason, it's kind of like dating. We don't want to hear about your ex on our first date, right? It just makes us all uncomfortable. We don't know you well enough yet for you to be going off on a company we may or may not know, on a person we may or may not know. What it feels like, it's more about you than it is about them.
Sure.
It makes us uncomfortable, and then we think you're going to do the same thing to us.
Any shrewd manager is not going to look at you and say, wow, were you scorned? It was 100% these other people's fault who I've never met and didn't know prior to this. Aren't we fortunate to have you that you got out of there in one piece? That's not how anybody will operate. They'll say, what did you add to that mix?
So one of the questions that I ask people a lot when I interview them, when they're applying for a new job, is I'll say, so one day you went to Indeed or ZipRecruiter or, Career Builder, wherever they are, wherever you found this posted want ad, right?
Yep.
And what precipitated that? What caused you on that day to start looking for a job? Okay. So a little bit, I'm inviting that question about, most people don't say anything about their current boss. I did have this week, this one woman say something, and it was the best situation of explaining her current situation, which was not good.
Do tell.
But I think that it actually served her well. So as a rule of thumb, we're not going to trash our prior employers and the prior businesses.
Sure.
But I'm going to use this woman as an example and what she told me, and I thought it was acceptable. So she said, I worked for years for this particular office, and I had a boss that I loved, and it was really well organized. All of that is important to me. The client was number one, right? And so she said, my boss left to go to another company, and within a month there offered me a job there. So I went because I really liked her, right?
Sure, yeah.
And I think it was a large kind of reception area, if you will, that she worked in. Well, she said it was the most unorganized, horrible. I mean, she said we couldn't give the service that I was used to giving. It was complete chaos. They were completely understaffed. She said the executives would have meetings listed all day and then just call in and tell us to call and cancel all the meetings, which just were, she said it was constantly angry clients, right? I mean, she said it was chaos. Within 3 months, the woman who had hired her left.
Not a good sign.
Not a good sign. And so now she's there alone without anybody even to commiserate or talk about possibly can we make it better. And she said, she goes, I hate to say anything bad, but I grew up and I'm so committed to give a level of service to our customers. And it is virtually impossible here because we are so understaffed. There's so much chaos and nobody will take control and lead, right? So I kind of felt like it was okay the way she described it. She didn't personalize anything about anybody, right? I mean, she didn't say, man, and the one that manages me is what a loon tune she is, right?
Right, yep.
She didn't do that. She sort of validated her story by saying, obviously she was a good enough employee that someone wanted to take her with them, right? And then that person bailed within 3 months. So that kind of validated her story a little bit, right? And she said, listen, I mean, I can show up here. I can do it. She said, it's just really heart-wrenching and soul-sucking to know what I'm walking into every day and to know that it's not going to change. So she said, it's really important to me that we can if giving good customer service is the priority, which is a priority for me, I want to be able to do it and do it the right way.
Yep.
So the way she kind of wound that all up, her real reason was to give she liked interacting with clients. She liked taking care of people. She wasn't able to effectively do it where she was. So it felt to me like, we moved her on. She ended up being one of the finalists. And somehow she elicited, compassion with all of us for her situation. And so I think you can tell the truth, but you have to be very, very, very careful and craft a story that doesn't sound like boo-hoo, poor me, they're jerks. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So on the burning the bridge thing, as a rule, I'm going to say when you're interviewing, if you're interviewing for a new job, do not, bring up how much you don't like your current job. Better to say, I think I've outgrown it, or better to say new management came in and I think our values aren't aligned more, stuff like that. But I have to say, this woman did a very good job of describing kind of a dreadful situation, but she certainly didn't put names and faces on it, but she didn't even put titles on it. It was just like, this isn't a well-run organization, is basically what she said. So, and it moved her all the way through. She was not the final candidate that got hired. There was somebody that was just incredibly more qualified, but she was right there. It would have been her. So as a rule, no, if you're going to do it, then craft it very carefully and keep heat out of your voice. Like when she told the story, she was very calm, very collected, very mature. And when you tell the story, tamp the heat down on it, no big emotion about it. And then make sure that it's not personal towards any one person or entity. I think that part is important. A second example that happened this week was a young woman was helping a client, and the client was older and was frustrated. And honestly, I think the client didn't completely understand, what was going on.
Sure.
But the young girl got really frustrated as well and proceeds to just be kind of bitch the client out in front of everybody.
Not great.
Not great. Now, he was ill-behaved too. I want to say that 100%.
Short-tempered.
Yeah,
frustrated.
Short-tempered, exactly. But then, she started with all the you, and I. The minute that starts, you're dead.
Yous and I's are bad.
Yous and I's are bad. Just go to we, people. And so she ended up quitting and stomping. I don't have to take this. So it kind of swirled back to the business, right? Meaning like as if the business had planted this cranky person, right?
Sure.
And I don't have to take this and and I'm gone, right? So she literally burned the fields down on her way out the door, and left.
She took this as the opportunity to excuse herself from the business and kind of double-barreled it on the way out.
Right. And so no 2 weeks notice, really angry, grabbing her stuff, stomping out, that kind of thing. So here's what ends up happening with that is, sweetie, you're not going to get a good reference from us for sure, okay?
Which in that moment, she probably didn't care.
She probably didn't care in that moment, but don't put us down. It's as if you didn't work here.
How long had she worked there for?
2 or 3 years.
Ooh,
so
that's
a while.
not great.
Yeah, so that's not great. The other part is you didn't give us any notice, so we are really stuck now, right? I mean, that's the worst. And especially I'm going to say for a smaller business, it's even harder because you don't have the numbers to scoop in and help. But it led to a really interesting conversation. And that was, if you have a really difficult client, is it okay? I mean, where is it okay? Do you know what I mean? To do that? Because she could have burned the bridge down and still stayed there, right? I mean,
sure.
She could have done that as well. And so one of the conversations I had with the owner is I said, I want you to go back to the other employees, number one, that witnessed it, and that there are several of them that have a job like hers, right? And I mean, it's kind of front and center with clients. And so I want you to ask them if they feel supported, right? Like if things go really wrong or if a client actually is verging on being abusive. And I think this guy was. I mean, I think he was a whole handful to deal with, right? Where is the line? Are you paying these people enough money to be yelled at or screamed at or cursed at or, whatever?
Or to have the authority to just take this on by themselves?
Or have the authority. Exactly. And so the other people did say they felt supported. But then I asked this. I said, we all have a place where eventually we'll get triggered. I mean, if it just goes on and on and on.
Of course.
Right? That's why walking away is obviously the best thing. But, for some people, it might be in work like, okay, I'm going to start cursing right now. Okay, right. Then be quiet. Do you know what I mean? Be quiet. And actually, there's nothing better to say. If somebody hasn't already asked for your boss, there's nothing better to say like, look, in this conversation, I think we've exceeded my authority. Let me get my boss for you, right? Because right then when you do that, you're the winner. I mean, you just won.
Sure. So establishing the boundaries of an individual's abilities in the scope of their position will hopefully allow them a better understanding of dealing with tumultuous times so as to avoid them grabbing their stuff and leaving and never being seen from again.
Exactly. I mean, because otherwise, if we keep putting people in that situation, they're going to eventually want to burn down the temple, right? I mean, that's what they're going to do. So the other thing is we're all different. Like if I came from a home where maybe I had 5 or 6 brothers and sisters and screaming and shouting and calling names and was just part of it. Like that's how I grew up. I might be really okay with all that and it doesn't mean much to me. I'm an only child. I mean, like the screaming, yelling thing, like, ugh, I mean, I hate it. And I mean, like you will say, you go below the belt. I just do that to try to end it, which is not a good thing, but that's what will happen sometimes. Right. And so the other thing is when you feel that thing rise up in yourself, and it could be, I'm going to curse. It could be, I'm going to yell. It could be, I'm going to start the you and I game. Like, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to point my finger. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to do all that, right? Wherever that mark is, and it's different for all of us, right? Or I'm just going to start getting really passive aggressive. Well, so that's what you think, right? That kind of thing. When you feel that pull, that's the time to stop. And that's the time to get somebody else involved, whether they've told you to or not. You are out of your arena when that happens, because what's going to happen is you're going to get stuck in being right, thinking you're right. And then you're going to first be arguing with the client. And then secondly, it's going to turn on the company you work for or your boss because you still think you're right. And you might be right, but you might be right without a job at the end. And so we really have to. And I think this is even part of the whole mental health conversation we're having. We have to take care of ourselves, and we don't want to be in those situations. And work, I don't care if you're making gazillions of dollars, there's not enough money in the world to be emotionally abused by somebody else.
You need to know your threshold as an employee. And I can remember saying to you a decade ago, at the point that I feel I'm smarter than my superior, it's time for me to leave, because I can't stomach that. If I'm genuinely showing up to work every day thinking I'm smarter than the person who's in charge of me, I'm eventually going to undermine them. It's just a matter of time. And if that's the case and there's no change in sight, then the onus is on me to change jobs.
Well, and what I want to say about that, because that did sound a little entitled when you said it.
No. But I own that. That's my own thing. That has nothing to do with the individual who's in charge of me. But if I'm saying at some point, I don't trust your foresight as it relates to this job, and I feel like I can't do my job well because I'm going to constantly be second guessing what you're saying, then that doesn't have anything to do with that person. That has everything to do with me. And if I can't suppress that or stomach that or kind of rework my belief system as it relates to this job, then it's on me to leave, and leave before I cause chaos.
Right. The one thing I would say that is an addendum to that is sometimes we do outgrow our bosses,
Sure.
but our bosses are still good mentors. They're good advocates for us.
Sometimes.
I'm using the good scenario,
Sure.
Kev, that, like they would still be able to offer us some coaching opportunities. And then those are the cases to all the bosses of the world why we stay longer. I mean, because
Totally.
those things are available to us. But what you said about when I feel like I'm not being mentored anymore, I'm not being, like you've got nothing to give me, right? Then it's time for me to either move in a different direction or leave, whichever. I mean, move in a different direction even within the company, I do think that on the burning the bridges thing, as a rule, 99.9% of the time, it's never going to work for you. The example of the woman that I used that just described, her situation, she wasn't burning any bridges. She shows up there every day. She does a good job. She's looking for another job is what she's supposed to be doing. But she was asked and she offered an explanation,
Yep.
For why she was leaving. So it also is kind of like, a little bit, I compare a lot of the stuff to dating and relationships a lot. When we look back on really good friends that we had for a while that, maybe we're not really good friends anymore, or love relationships we had for a while that, we're not in those relationships anymore. Just like work relationships, they weren't all bad. There were things about them that were good. And so it's really our responsibility, I think, number one, for our own peace of mind. I think we need to know what the bad things were, and we need to have clarity about why we left. But it's kind of like the Brene Brown thing about don't share, intimate or vulnerable things about yourself until the person has proven to be trustworthy, yep. Right? Mm-hmm. And if you're just meeting somebody for an interview, they haven't had the time to prove that they're trustworthy. Sure. So flip it and share the good stuff. Do you know what I mean? Share why you went to work there, what you liked about it. And if you're going to share the bad stuff, then you better frame it in a way that you don't sound like a whiny, cryy, you're hiring a problem kind of person. And the rest of it is, listen, I would love to walk out on somebody one day. I mean, I'm self-employed now, probably not going to happen.
It would be weird.
It would be weird. But, we all have those dreams of when we're wronged, how we want to do it. And the Jerry Maguire thing is, the thing that we all look at. But the truth of the matter is it normally doesn't work like that. And when you engage, the second you engage in misbehaving yourself, everybody is judging you now too.
Yeah.
And it's not about, for them, it's not about right or wrong. For them, it's about the behavior that's being exhibited in front of them. So your team isn't often as big as you think it is of all the people that you thought were on your side. So when it's time to leave with grace and take what you learned and move on, and don't you make the same mistakes again, and better identify people. The one thing I say to everybody when they're looking for a new job, I say, listen, come armed with 1,000 questions. This is like dating. Do you want to spend 40 hours a week with these people? You have to figure it out. I mean, 1.5 hour interview or an hour interview isn't enough time to figure that out.
Or be like those Dollar Tree employees who all in unison left, so Dollar Tree couldn't function anymore. And then the Dollar Tree store manager put up a sign that said, due to a lack of work shortage, we are no longer open. And the employees responded by saying, because you are a horrible boss to work with, every single person agrees as much, which is why nobody's there working. You underpay us, you don't adhere to the schedule, and we have to do all of your work for you as well. So if you're going to leave, make sure you have the support of literally everybody else.
Yeah, that's the one thing Jerry Maguire didn't check on
Nope.
when he walked out. Yeah. So, he should have called, the first person he should have called was Cuba Gooding Jr., right?
No, definitely not. That the way that story works, it was the last person he called for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, I just think like there are situations where stuff is going to happen and it's negative and it'll work out. Maybe it'll look like you burned down the bridge, but 99.9% of the time, it's not the best way to go.
On to Dear Debbie. One of the questions I was going to ask was that I found was a bunch of coworkers were very upset by a boss who asked all the employees to enter from the rear of the building. And one of their employees was handicapped and it was not handicap accessible. And the question was going to be, how do we as a group address this? I did not select one of those. I did not select that particular question.
Oh, that would have been good for this, wouldn't have it?
But I didn't know. So here we are. We're left with 3 totally different questions for Dear Debbie, 2 business, 1 personal. Let's go. Dear Debbie, I'm a boutique owner and I've sold women's luxury items for almost 6 years now. In a tough economy, my business has managed to remain successful and increase its number of shoppers. I was looking to grow my business and hire my first store employee. I figured a new employee would introduce new energy around the workplace, and it did just that. I decided to hire a close friend of mine who was going through financial trouble. I wanted to help in any way possible. She had lost her job because of the intense economy, and she needed some assistance. She's a great worker who brings an amazing energy, but she just can't seem to get to work on time. Maybe she has ADHD. The first couple of times were excusable, but now it's hindering my business. I've spoken to her about this, and it fixed the problem only temporarily. I'm in a bind here, and I'm not sure of my next move. Do you think I should fire her for her lack of timeliness?
Good question.
I like this question because there's layers to it. It's not just an employee, it's a friend. And it's not just an employee, it's the first employee. And she makes the argument that when she's there, she's exactly what she needs. The only problem is getting her there.
So recently I had a conversation with somebody who owns a company, and they have it sounds very similar, a woman who is an incredible salesperson. just busts through all goals. Okay.
Yep.
And then there are a couple things that are like, but the bothers the owner. Right.
Sure.
And so they're always talking about him. And I've been a part of some of these conversations. And I said, listen, here's what I think it is. We talked to her and she's really good then for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months. Really good. I said, you need to decide if you are going to fire her over this and lose this incredible salesperson who's bringing lots of revenue to your organization, or
are you okay having a conversation every 2 months?
Are you okay having a conversation every couple of months and just knowing that that's part of the deal for her? And once I said it like that, she said, oh, so I really need to know that on month 3. And then she was like, that's once a quarter. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like, I need to have a conversation with her. I said, yep, that's how it's going to be.
Which, isn't it great to know that?
Yeah.
I view that as a win.
And she said, I can live with that. I can live with that. Because really, we see change. And the change lasts for, a couple of months, 2.5 months, whatever. And then month 3-ish kind of falls off, right? So I do think there are, where you look at that and you go, okay, that's not ideal. I know there's a number of people out there that would say they would disagree with that. I would say that this person is a bit of a phenom in their sales ability, right?
Yep.
And that the company is benefiting greatly from that. So I don't know, what is the chance of finding that again right away? And so is this worth that? We just weigh it. I know a lot of bosses would say, oh, I'm giving them control. And you're not giving them anything, because we're still going to talk to them. It still can end up being part of a performance review, like, hey, listen, I have to talk to you 4 times a year minimum about this. I'd love it if it could change permanently, but you're not going to get this or that as long as we're still having these conversations. Right. So on the late thing, here's kind of the problem. It's a small shop. It's 2 people. I've got to believe that to some degree, maybe she has her open, right?
I would imagine.
And if she's late, then the store isn't open. Like that's
Correct.
a bad late.
That's a very bad late.
If the woman, meaning the owner, is comfortable saying, I'll happily be there every morning. I mean, on this kind of thing, I would just say there are those people that are perpetually late no matter what the time is, right? But then there are those people that if you just gave them an extra half hour, they'd be fine. Some people, if you give them the extra half hour, they'll just be late after that.
I was going to say, why can't you just move the goalposts?
So part of my thing might be with her, if the owner feels okay about this, because again, she said, otherwise she's a great employee, right? And as she said, invigorated the energy and everything of the shop, which is huge. So what I might say to the woman is, I need you to be to work like your starting time is 9. But in my mind, it's really 9:30.
Totally.
Like if it's something like that, like if she's there by 9:30 every day, I'm good. Now I still get to use that against her a little bit.
Of course.
Right? And say when it comes time for a raise, she wants this much. And I go, you're never at work on time. I'm not giving that much until you can show up on time, right? Until she begins to own that piece of it. But if it really is the morning thing and the owner wants to go on vacation and the owner wants her to open, that's tough. I mean, because we're talking about...
There's no accountability on that.
There's no accountability. And you potentially talk about somebody driving by and saying, we never know their hours, somebody going to try the door handle, the lights are off, no one's there.
And not to mention, if you fire her, your friendship is over.
Oh, if you fire you. Yeah, and I don't know, like, yes, that would bother me. I mean, the thing that bothers me the most is the part that she's doing so well, okay?
Yep.
But I do think, I would say as a rule of thumb, that's not the way you want to manage. Otherwise, I mean, the prisoners run the asylum.
That's true.
That's what happens.
It's tough. That's why you should never do business with your friends.
Well, that's what I was going to say in the first place. Yeah.
Just never do it. I don't care how wonderful she is. Let her go be wonderful for somebody else. You can have that relationship forever and then just find somebody else.
Yeah.
Somebody else can do the job as well as her, if not better.
Yeah.
Dear Debbie, my wife and I want to open a restaurant. It has been our shared dream since the day that we met. Now that we are moving forward the first steps, we are finding that we have a lot of differences of opinion when it comes to this business. It's been a battle to make every single decision. At this point, we have divided responsibilities and decisions just so we do not argue. We have had a good handle on it so far, and I know our marriage is strong enough to handle anything, but with our whole life savings being invested in this restaurant, I want to make sure it succeeds. Are we in over our heads, or should I just keep the faith? They say don't mix business with pleasure, but this is my life partner. I think we need to be all in or nothing. What are your thoughts? Just get divorced.
Did Daddy write that?
Listen, man, if you guys really want to be business partners, just get divorced. It's going to be easier.
So that is exactly what Dad and I did. We divided, everything, and where we knew where we had a voice and we knew where we had a vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in the beginning, it was kind of, I'm trying to think, in the areas where I had the final vote, I'm sure Dad walked away unhappy, right?
I mean, that's usually how that would work.
Yeah. I think that a little bit where Dad had the final vote, I mean, I would try my darndest, but then he had the final vote. So I think I could give it up a little bit easier, maybe not much, but a little bit, a titch. But were there things that we still found to argue about?
Sure.
Of course.
What can people who've been married for a long time do? Find something to argue over.
I mean, and like in our case, we are really different and we really perceive people differently and the world differently. And so, he would say something about an employee like she needs to go. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I love her.
Right.
No, she's not going anywhere, So,
and this is just the build out of the restaurant. This doesn't even have anything to do with managing people yet.
I know the build out can kill you. Seriously.
Well, especially if the good thing with you and Dad was Dad probably didn't care much about the aesthetic. Dad cared more about the the quality of it? Did the blueprint make sense for what we were trying to do, right? And then he could probably turn to you and say, Deb, however you want to do this, let's do it this way.
Right.
Now, he would certainly have an opinion on the type of espresso machine that you guys used, but there was a good give and take there. But the stuff that you guys, for whatever reason, I'm sure you would dig in on something that normally you wouldn't otherwise care about, and vice versa. But from just like an aesthetic point of view, Dad would probably let you run wild with it. And from a menu point of view, Dad might say, well, hey, I like this kind of sandwich, but ultimately leave it up to you to decide whether or not it made the menu.
Right. So the thing I think where Dad and I would get where it would, well, I mean, I think we did pretty well through the build out. Honestly, I think we hung in there. I think once the restaurant was up and going, like Dad would just, one day say something like, that sandwich is really good. You're not charging enough for it. And then walk away.
Oh, okay.
And it would be like, am I not charging enough for it? Am I leaving money on the table? I mean, I'd done the numbers on it. We had a formula and everything. And so it would be like little things like that would make me second guess myself. And if it wasn't in his bailiwick, right, he would kind of toss it at me, On the flip side, it would have been like, two of the heads on the espresso machine are not pouring the way they're supposed to pour. I don't know how we can be open if those aren't. I mean, I could have done the same thing.
Sure.
It is hard. We made all these commitments to leave it at the restaurant and not bring it home. But there are no boundaries when you own a restaurant. I mean, it's everywhere with you, And so I would just say, what I would say more than the restaurant, what you really have to remember more than how you're going to behave at the restaurant is the core of your family's belief and values for your marriage, right? And how we're going to treat each other and how we're going to communicate and how we're going to, if you're not going to go to bed mad, then really don't go to bed mad. It's those things that you have to instill in the business. They need to float in there and they need to remain strong, and you need to make time for one another away from the business and not talk about the business in order to come back fresh from it. That's what I would say to most of that.
That's great. I have nothing to add there, thus, because I'm not married and I have not started a restaurant before.
But it was probably written by Dad, for sure.
For sure. Last one. Dear Debbie, here's a great pandemic-related fallout question. My friend and I got engaged in the same week and chose our 2021 wedding dates 1 week apart. Once we got hit with COVID, I pushed my date back 1 year and my friend got married early in the courthouse. She approached me asking about my wedding date and if I intended on keeping the same date for 2022. She wanted to renew her vows with a full wedding, no longer on the original date she had chosen, but 1 week earlier on my original 2021 date. She asked me only after I told her of the 1 year postponement. This began a conflict and was a problem for me. As close friends and each other's bridesmaids, I would not want us to deliberately get married on the same date, even 1 year apart. What should I do? Get over yourself.
That's just so tough.
Is that tough? She's not saying it's the same day. It's the same date. You share that same date with millions of couples.
Well, no, but in 2022, it is the same day. The way you read it, it is the same date and day, because that's what she got married during COVID at the courthouse.
Fair.
Now,
True.
She wants to have her wedding party, if you will.
Yeah.
On the exact same day.
Okay, you're correct.
Okay, is that right?
I think it's correct. Continue. I'll reread. If I find any issue, I'll tell you.
So here's the thing that I think is kind of hard. The other couple has already been married for a year because they went to the courthouse.
True.
Right? So they are indeed married. They can have all the parties in the world they want, but they're married. This other couple is not yet married. They've chosen to put that off. So there is a little difference in the meaning of the weddings too, right?
Of course.
I mean, because one has already been married for a year and one hasn't. It would seem to me that the girl that is getting married for the first time that chose her wedding day date a year ago should have first dibs at it. Because the other one, I'm not saying it's less. I'm just saying it's different. We already know she's married.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
it reads weird. I think I'm lost in this conversation where the girl pushed her 2021 back to 2022. Same
Correct.
date, same weekend. The friend got married on the original week, which was a week after her friend was supposed to get married in 2021. She's now asking to have a vow renewal on the same day as this woman wants her wedding.
Yeah.
How is the person asking for the renewal not the wrong person here?
She's the wrong person.
Oh, I thought you said the other person was.
No, the person asking for the renewal is the wrong person.
1,000%.
Yeah,
you
she's
you
already married.
you already got married.
Exactly. Yeah.
You already
we
got
had a little
married.
moment there, a little brain fart. Yeah.
Of course. You already got married.
Yeah.
You chose your path. And we love that it was just you on the courthouse steps with the man that you love. We love that. Don't make us think less of you because now you want the pomp and circumstances a year later, coinciding with a friend who decided it meant more to wait a year to be surrounded with friends and family. So we did it exactly 365 days later. You're the bad person, friend, by trying to steal that, because my guess is you're not going to be at her wedding. Right. And you're going to be inviting people who would be attending her wedding.
Friends. Exactly.
And I don't know in what freaking world you don't see that as a problem.
Oh, I mean, at this point, it's really just pick another date.
Totally.
Just pick another date.
I listened to a podcast where they were having a conversation about women not even liking the idea of their friends getting engaged before they have their own wedding. Meaning like you can't get engaged within like 2 months on either side of my wedding if you don't want me to get mad at you type things.
Oh, that's crazy.
Imagine if you decided, oh, hey, not only am I going to get married, I did, by the way, I'm going to have my renewal date, which is really just going to be a second wedding, on your actual wedding.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, no, we like those girls that we've seen on Instagram and TikTok that go to throw the bouquet and then hand it to one girl.
Yeah.
And the guy is kneeling down behind her, that she will actually share her wedding day with her best friend to get engaged. That's how we would like all women to be. However, in this situation, we're actually asking mutual friends to show up. We're dividing our friend group.
Yeah.
I mean, which is terrible.
You're trying to have your cake and eat it too. We liked you a year ago. Yeah. Don't make us dislike you now.
We were really proud of you that you thought that getting married was more important than the pandemic, more important than a party, and that you went to the courthouse. We thought that was fabulous. So don't make us undo that. Because
if you're telling us that you didn't think that was great, then what I'm assuming is you're a little bummed about your husband, and now you're just trying to find any reason that, inject some pizzazz back into it.
I'm going to party this thing up.
Yeah, I in no way is the friend who's trying to renew her vows in the right. That's insane. Absolutely insane.
I agree.
Okay, Deborah, what are you thankful for this week besides me forcing you to not drink anything on this podcast because your voices sound absolutely amazing?
I am parched.
Yeah.
I am completely 100% parched.
But you sound fantastic.
Okay, so the answer is like I never hydrate myself again?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Ever on this podcast.
So I have a friend who has had a cancer scare, and there was a diagnosis of cancer, but it was the best possible scenario ever. And it wasn't the worst case scenario. So we are very, very grateful for that. And we are going to see her through this, and she's going to do just great and come out the other side with her whole life ahead of her. And it looked so dismal, and now it feels so good. So I am very, very, very grateful for that.
That's awesome. I don't have anything close to that. I started watching the X-Files.
Oh, the old ones?
Yes.
Do you love them?
Oh my God, they're amazing television. First off, they're both so young. David Duchovny and what's her name? Give it to me.
Gillian
Anderson. They're so young. She's like 24 in that.
Is she that young?
Yeah. And what's great is David Duchovny was also in Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks only lasted 2 seasons. So I think the very next show he was in after Twin Peaks was X-Files. I don't know if it's just
a different David Duchovny.
Totally different. Not sex addict David Duchovny.
Not sex addict David Duchovny.
It's so much fun because, here we are in 2021 where the government is openly talking about aliens and the existence of UFOs, right? And there's this show 20 years earlier, well, 30 years earlier, I forget how old I am, talking about these things that just kind of like live on the fringe of the government that everybody's trying to cover up. And I remember listening to people talk about the X-Files. I don't think you and Dad would have let me watch the X-Files. You would have thought it was like, way too heavy.
Yeah.
But so whenever I hear the X-Files theme song, I like get goosebumps like I'm not supposed to be watching it. Like it's a little treat to myself that I've like tucked away in the closet and I'm hiding from my parents who still live in the same house as me.
But
and doing something I shouldn't be doing.
I haven't seen the X-Files on the TVs that are out in the open area, so I'm assuming you're watching it in your bedroom.
I watch it before I go to bed.
You're being a sneaky kid up there.
It's so much fun. It's a great television program. And I mean, I rewatched The Shield from the early 2000s. I'm watching Damages. Like, there's something to be said for old television. I mean, I guess it's old. It's 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
There's something to be said for older television still standing up, especially in a time where we're like craving content constantly. Yeah. It's great. If you haven't watched the X-Files, if you like things that are a little, out of the norm, go do that. It's so much fun. I appreciate that they exist. That's my thankful for somebody making something 30 years ago.
You're thankful is a TV show this week. That's good. That's good. So, Kev, what are we having for dinner tonight?
Hey, Deb, what are we having for dinner tonight? Let me say this. Mm-hmm. You said short ribs last week, and I know you pulled that out of it out of nowhere.
Did we have short ribs?
We did. And I'm going to tell you that even though this thing you just came up with on the spot where I was like, she doesn't know what the hell she's doing with short ribs, they were phenomenal. They were utterly phenomenal. And you said, and I just watched you do it all, it was the easiest thing ever. Now, you couldn't find short ribs with bone in, but I think that was actually best, because what you did was you took the short ribs, you crusted them with a Montreal steak seasoning, you seared them off on a pan just to get that nice crust, and then you threw them into the Instant Pot with wine and chicken stock and veggies and fresh tomatoes from our little tomatoes that are growing in the front yard. You cooked it for 40 minutes. Aromatically, it was absolutely amazing. I made some mashed potatoes to go with it. The whole thing probably took, an hour and a half, tops.
Max, yeah.
It was the highest end restaurant quality food that this kitchen has produced in a long time. It was phenomenal. Dad, who hates food,
so I was
just like, I wasn't hungry for this, and he kept going back for more.
So right now, Gary, it's not like he doesn't have an appetite because he's sick. His appetite is coming back weirdly, right? Yep. And he often has a big lunch.
Think of a middle schooler at lunch.
Exactly. So he often has a big lunch, which then he's not very hungry for dinner. So we'll say, what do you want for dinner? The answer is, I'll get it myself or nothing or whatever. But I made that and I put it in front and I said to him, how many pieces of meat do you want? And he said 2 small ones, which was because he loves beef, kind of a weird answer. But I served it to him. It was gone in a flash. He looked at me. He goes, I didn't know I wanted this. And then was back up there.
I'm not going to lie to you. When you said short ribs, I thought, this is going to be a miss. But who cares? It's going to be good for Instagram. It was phenomenal. I can't believe there was even leftovers.
Well, and Dad ate those.
Sure. And I'm happy he does, because he doesn't eat leftovers.
Yeah, he dips them for himself, for sure.
I was happy to have him.
So I think this week we're going to make, I make a good chicken enchilada.
Chicken enchilada.
Which we haven't had for a really long time. But
true, because you use the corn tortillas.
We're going to have to use the corn tortillas.
That's okay. They'll be like little taquito enchiladas.
Okay. Yeah, kind of a little. But we'll take pictures. They'll be good.
Oh, they're going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But for the roux, the sauce, do you put flour in that? Had you?
No, I've never put flour.
Just a cream sauce?
Yeah, just a cream sauce.
They look beautiful too.
So we don't do a red sauce.
No.
We do a cream sauce, a creamy cheese sauce, which is with a little nutmeg in it, which I know sounds weird.
No, it's great.
Out of this world.
It's fantastic.
Out of this world. Yeah.
I'm excited. Here's what I'm excited about. We've crested 100 episodes. We've cooked every piece of food that we know how to make. So now, whenever you hear Deb come up with something, she's either going into her deep bag of recipes, or she saw something on Instagram that she's going to cook for the first time. And the only person who wins is me.
Yeah. Happy.
So unbelievably happy here. That's going to do it for this episode of the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. There are so many places. I believe we exist on all of those places. 5 stars. That's all we require. 5 freaking
But
stars.
I don't know how. I tried to help somebody find our podcast on an Android.
Oh, yeah. Impossible.
I don't know how to do it.
It might as well be a different language.
But if you have an iPhone and I'm with you, I will help you find it and I will give us 5 stars.
That's true. I've seen her. Yeah. Actually, here's what you guys do. If you don't want to do it yourself, put your phone in the mail. Send it to us. We'll open it. We'll subscribe. We'll even write the review for you.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay for us to send your phone back to you.
Yeah.
But you'll get it back within 15 business days. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine.
It'll be fine.
And of course, you can follow us on all of our social channels at Deb and Kev Pod. And because it's Monday, what can you guys do? You guys can watch this on our YouTube channel when it goes live, bright and early, Tuesday morning. Mom, I love you to death. No what?
It doesn't go Tuesday morning.
Sure does.
Is it a holiday?
No, it always goes Tuesday morning. It's never not gone Tuesday morning.
But people watch it on Monday morning.
That's not true.
Kev.
Deb.
I get texts on Monday morning.
You don't.
I don't?
Nope. Unless they're watching the week before.
Really?
Look at Deb learning about how her own podcast works.
So our podcast comes out on Tuesday and Thursday?
Our podcast comes out on Monday. The YouTube video that I referenced comes out on Tuesday.
Okay, that I never knew. Oh, wow.
I'm happy that I can educate you and the listening audience.
How did I not know that?
I don't know. You're only the co-host.
Okay. All right. Well, good to know.
Hey, Mom, I love you to death.
I love you as well.
We'll see you guys on Thursday.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow Deb and Kev on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter at Deb and Kev Pod.